Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of The Traveling Therapist. I'm Lauren Perez, a licensed clinical social worker in the state of Illinois. I provide individual and family counseling services across Lake County, and I also work in the Chicagoland area. In addition, I work as a crisis worker for low-income children and adolescents and adults, all over the county of Lake where I reside. My video blogs often focus on the cases that I've worked on because I feel like they're quite interesting, and I feel like there are a lot of people who are dealing with the issues similar to the ones that I encounter on a weekly basis, daily basis. In doing all this and in consistently meeting new people, I rarely get to evaluate the same people over and over again. Typically, when I go out and do crisis evaluations, these are with people who I've never met before. And more than likely, I won't meet again because we're going to connect them to the services that they need, and they won't need to call us again, which is wonderful. The fact that they didn't have services, they called this crisis line, we dispatch to them, we link them with who and what they need, and then they move forward in their lives to try and learn how to be stable and function in the midst of whatever stressor or trigger or trauma that they're enduring at the time. I thought that today would be a good breakthrough between the first. I think I've done 2 videos now that were directly focused on what I'm doing in terms of how I help other people, and I wanted to discuss self-care because there are people who are watching this who work in my field, who are like me, who may not know what they should or can do to help kind of let go of work after it's gone, after you leave. And as I was first starting out in the social work field, one of the first jobs I ever had was working for DCFS in the Child and Abuse Investigations Department. So I was seeing some pretty terrible things. I was hearing some pretty terrible things. I was talking to some pretty terrible people. And I was also pregnant with my first child. So that job caused me to leave social work for a little bit, just until I learned how to not let there be transference or from that person to me. I didn't want to take my work home, and I found myself in this place where every little kid that I was talking to was the face of my child. How could you hurt your child or another child when this is a kid? They're helpless. They're innocent, So I learned a lot about how to take care of myself, how to make sure I was getting all of my needs met. And then I returned to the field, and I think I've been in a position to do a lot of good and to really take care of other people and myself. So I just wanted to take a little time to share what I've learned and what I do. These tips might not all work for you. They might not work for any of you. They're just my self-care tips, and they're just some ideas. You can always do anything to self-care. Anything that's not destructive and doesn't hurt anyone or hurt you can be considered a coping skill or a self-care technique. I learned early on that I needed to have time each day to decompress, whether it was listening to a podcast for a little while, listening to some loud, glaring music for a little while, blaring music on my way home from a crisis evaluation or just from the office. But primarily, first things first, if you're in a relationship with someone, then you need somebody who you can talk to. And I know you don't want to come home and unload your day on your partner, your spouse, but that dynamic, whether it's just you coming home and talking about your day for a few minutes, limited, is very helpful and useful because you shouldn't have to go this alone. And if you are single or just not attached in a relationship of that capacity or magnitude, if you have a friend or a family member, call your mom if your mom is around, call your dad if your dad is around, a sibling, a cousin, a friend, whoever. Utilize that person, just calling them and saying, hey, if you have 10 or 15 minutes, can I really just share my day with you? I need to talk about what I experienced today. I need to hear it out loud and know that it's easier to process through things when you talk about them out loud, which is why counseling is encouraged by so many people in this profession. Talking to somebody, you can be the only one talking and sometimes come to a resolution or figure out a problem that you didn't realize was so attainable to process through. So talking to someone, and if you don't have anyone to talk to, if you literally don't have anybody to talk to, number one, it's okay for you to have a therapist of your own. There's nothing wrong with that. But journaling, writing it down, and I think that the misconception about journaling is that you have to sit down and write 4 or 5 pages every time you do it. Not the case. You can just go home, and whether you're doing it on your computer or you're doing it on paper and you like to handwrite, just writing down bullet points. What was my day like? The points of the day. I did a crisis evaluation, I saw 7 patients, and I had 3 hours of notes, and I didn't have lunch. That was my day. What was stressful about that? I dealt with a lot of trauma. I was hungry most of the day. I didn't get a break for myself. It was just fast-paced, and I feel exhausted. What were the highlights of that day, if any? I felt like I helped 3 people. I had a therapeutic breakthrough with 1 person. I managed to see all of my clients today. Nobody no-showed me. Everybody showed up on time. Those are highlights. When I got home, I ate something that was really good. I was able to really enjoy this food. Highlight. What would I have done differently? What can I do differently to not feel this stressed out tomorrow? And it's boundary setting. So if you have to carve out 10 minutes between each client, I know we all have our productivity deadlines and goals for work, but self-care is important too, because if you get burnt out and you quit, or you get burnt out and you are sick for 3 weeks and you have to go on FMLA, you're not helping anyone. You gotta look out for number 1, and you're number 1. So if it's carving out 5 or 10 minutes, your sessions should only be 10 minutes long. 50 minutes long. So carving out that 10 minutes from every hour shouldn't be that difficult. If you're not doing 50-minute sessions and you literally are sitting with these people for an hour, you need to cut that out. The 50-minute hour exists for a reason. 50 minutes with your patient, 10 minutes writing down, note-taking, so that you can either put your progress note in right away, or you have a point of reference to go back to when it's time for you to sit down and do your progress notes. You take that 10 minutes to decompress that patient, put your insights down, eat something while you're doing it, and then you see your next patient. I know it can be hard to stop people at the 50 minutes, but it exists for a reason. It's for them and it's for you. So that's decompressing from your day, whether you're communicating with somebody face-to-face on the phone, FaceTime, or you're writing, you're journaling. Things that you enjoy doing. Are you carving out a little bit of time each day to sit and do something enjoyable? And I'm not just talking about sitting on your phone. Yes, we all enjoy playing on our phones. There's lots of games out there. Social media is, some people find that they like it, but I think in reality, nobody likes social media. I think that it skews perspectives, and I don't think it's healthy to spend a lot of time on social media, but we'll get to, I have a crisis evaluation that was totally focused on social media, so we'll talk about that one later. But yes, a few minutes if you absolutely need to check Instagram or be on Facebook or what have you. Get on, get off, but I don't think it's going to make you feel better after a long, stressful day. When I ask about things that you enjoy, I'm talking about legit hobbies, things that do not involve internet, do not involve your phone. Reading, knitting, adult coloring books, kids coloring books. If you want to get a goddamn Paw Patrol coloring book and sit and color for an hour or 2 while you listen to music or watch a movie or watch TV or just have sound on in the background, do it. That is not a bad idea. I think that people don't realize how enjoyable coloring can be. It's a nice mindless thing. You don't have to. Nobody's asking you for anything. You're not trying to formulate a plan for someone. You're not trying to give them a solution or guide them in a direction. It's just you expressing yourself. So if you're having a down day and you want to color the picture in a really dark way, do it. If you're having a day where you feel like seeing something nice and pretty and bright, do it. I think that's something I wish I could get more people to get into again. And I encourage all of my clients, especially my single clients who don't necessarily have a good social circle, color. If I can't get them to go out and meet people or go out to social situations where they can try and increase their friendship pool, then sit and watch a comedy, watch a stand-up comedy on Netflix and color. Like I said, knitting, reading, cooking. If you want to cook and you're not really sure what you would cook or you want to get into it, then start with collecting recipes. Looking online, and this would be going back to your phone, but this is in a different capacity. You're going online, you're looking up, if paleo is something that you're really passionate about. There's lots of people out there who have really good paleo blogs. There's lots of really good recipes out there, things that are not difficult to make with ingredients that are very attainable and easy to find at in any grocery store. So look up recipes, compile yourself a nice pile of 50 recipes, put them together, and then break that down. Like, what types of groceries would you need over the course of a week? And you do this slowly. This is not something that you would do it one day after work, but this is over the course of a week after work. I'm going to sit and spend some time, 30 minutes or an hour, working on meal prep. It's something that pulls you completely out of the environment of mental health and trauma and the problems that you're working through with your clients. Spending time with other people in a good capacity. So if you've got friends or family and they have kids and you like kids, and even if you don't like kids, just being around somebody who has their hands full in a different way and observing them and just kind of giving yourself some perspective. Yeah, my day is hard and my day is stressful and I have all these things going on, but this person's day is hard and this person is stressful too, and asking them how they deal with it. How do you manage? How do you cope with being, if you have a friend who's a working parent and is the primary caregiver, how does that person find time for themselves? How do they self-care? All very useful. Exercise is good. You don't have to go to the gym. I mean, I know that the gym is the first thing that people suggested to others. Oh, you're feeling down, go to the gym. But not everybody wants to be in another building. I wish we could be outside more, but living in this region doesn't allow for that during the winter time. But as the weather is breaking, make time, go outside. Even on a cold day, bundle up and take a 10-minute walk. Get some fresh air. That's one of the things that I do after I see my patients. So the ones that clients, sorry, not patients. The clients that I have when I'm in the Chicago area, I make sure to park about 15 minutes from my building and I walk. I park my car. It doesn't matter how cold it is outside. I mean, I've taken some long walks on days where the temperature was 15 below, and I walked. I bundled up, got the fresh air, really was able to clear my head, because when it's that cold, you're not really thinking about whatever was stressing you out that day. All you're thinking about is, holy shit, it's cold. I can't wait to get to my fucking car and turn the heat on. And by the time you get to the car, whatever was bothering me at least, now I'm not really too worried about it. I want to put the music on, put the heater on, and get home. Decompress in that way. Reading is something that I do. I think I have 3 books in the car right now. I always have a book in my purse. I have books in my office. I have books everywhere. Whenever I get a free minute, even if I can only read a page or two, I crack open that book and I read. It's another way to completely disconnect from whatever stresses I'm having from my job. There's so many different genres. People often say, well, I don't like to read because it's boring. Well, you just haven't found the right genre. There are lots of websites out there that you can look at. Go to a library and just look around. Walk through the aisles. Think of an author of a book that you read when you were younger and you liked it. There's nothing wrong with adults reading young adult. You don't have to be 17 to read those books. Sometimes it is a matter of just reading something like a young adult novel that you can get through in a day or two if you're only reading for a few minutes or a half an hour a day. Quick, easy reads. They don't have to be dense William Faulkner, level reads. No one's telling you that. You don't have to go read the Lord of the Rings book because they're so big. So if that is something that you'd like to do and you want to see yourself get through a big book, do it. But there's no pressure to have to read books of that kind. They can be things like The Perks of Being a Wallflower, or Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. That book I read that between 2 clients one day. I loved it. It was such a quick, easy read. And it had a good message. That book has really withstood the test of time. It is absolutely so relevant today, and it is such a good book to read if you work with children and adolescents, because I think that after a while you forget what you dealt with when you were that age, and it's a good reminder, like, oh yeah, that isn't something new. That is still very relevant and present today. So books, read them. Making sure you're pampering yourself. If you like wearing nail polish or wearing makeup, take some time on a Sunday, polish your nails. If you want to wear makeup and you don't have time or you don't have it, on a day off, stop somewhere, grab a lipstick. It doesn't have to be a full face. If all your stuff is old, go get a new one. Go get a nail polish, polish your nails. Do your feet. Treat yourself, pamper yourself at home. If you can afford to go to a salon, go get a manicure and a pedicure. finding time to do those things, it's valid, it's necessary, and it's not a waste. The type of work that we do is not easy. It's not something that a lot of people do, and it's part of the reason, number one, why we get paid so low, because nobody wants to do the job. But then we're in such high demand because everybody needs us, and it's really frustrating to be in that situation. Like, you need a therapist, or you need people who work in mental health and in crisis and with kids, but then you don't really value them. You don't value what they do when you don't see what they do. And even when you see what they do, you're like, oh, okay, well, you chose that. You chose this life. Here's $32,000 a year, work 60 hours or more a week. We don't do it for the money, but it would be nice to make more, just like it would be nice if teachers made more. I mean, some cops make a lot of money. Not all cops do, but there are cops around here who are in the six figures. Yeah, their job is hard, but they also work in a really wealthy area. The cops who work in the hood and in the shit neighborhoods, they're not making six figures. But even police officers make more money than we do. And the argument that, well, they're in the line of fire, they have to go into dangerous situations. I'm a crisis worker. I go into dangerous situations as well, and I don't have a bulletproof vest. I don't even have fucking pepper spray. I have my own, and I have a baton that I keep with me in case somebody gets out of hand, in case I need to protect myself. But that was not provided to me by any organization or any agency. I've got into homes with people who, when I walked in the door, somebody was holding a knife, and I've had to talk people down from hurting themselves or hurting other people. Teenage boys who are punching holes in walls and throwing fucking furniture, and I have to call the police to come and stand there and do nothing because they don't do anything in that situation. They stand there. So this argument that they do more for us in these situations than we do, it's not true. They just stand there in case somebody charges you, and even then, they don't even always intervene. They don't get involved unless I'm standing there begging them to do something. And even then, they do it begrudgingly. And that means they do it with attitude. They do it like, ugh. But that's what you're there for. And this is what I'm here for. And this person needs help. And I need your help. So suck it the fuck up. But I digress. I'll leave it there. Taking care of yourself is important. The lists that we give our clients of coping skills, we can utilize them too. I mean, there are 100 coping skills, 100 things to do when you're sad, 100 things to do when you're angry, 100 things to do when you're anxious, 15 things to do when you can't stop worrying. Use those lists. They're helpful. They're beneficial. They work. If you're having a hard time figuring out what you like, try lots of things. If you've tried lots of things and you're not sure, try more things. The only way to do better for yourself is to keep trying and to figure out what you want, what you need, what you like, and how best to utilize it and how best to access it. Talking to your community. Social work, when I graduated from, when I got my master's in social work, the commencement speaker said something very interesting. I didn't understand it then, but the longer that I've done this, I understand it now. One of the things she said was to treat your coworkers with respect, to always be mindful of how you're presenting yourself and how you're interacting with others, which matters anyway. It always matters to treat people with respect and kindness. But she said, because it's a very, very small community. And if you make a bad name for yourself, it'll follow you everywhere. And it's so true. I crossed paths with people who I worked with years ago in different capacities. Time and time again, it is a small community. It's a very small community. People I worked with at DCFS, I'm not crossing paths with as I do crisis work because they work at the agency, or they're a therapist for one of the kids that I'm seeing, or they manage a program, or they themselves are now utilizing the services. It's amazing. But talk to your community. There's a lot of us, and we care about each other. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Some people don't, but those people won't make it far. And if they do make it far, it'll be short-lived because word travels. Utilize your community, social supports. Create that community yourself. If you have 2 or 3 people at your office that you really enjoy, 2 or 3 of the women who I used to work with when I was full-time here in the county. Now I'm more full-time in Chicago. But some of the people who I worked with when I was full-time here, they get together and they go do Pilates a couple times a week, which I think is awesome. They leave, they have a day where they leave work. You know, we're all supposed to work late nights, and often we end up working more late nights than we really have to. They have dedicated a day where they leave work by a certain time. It's not even like they're leaving early. It's still late, but they go together and they hold each other accountable, and they go do Pilates, and they're all feeling a lot better, and it's brought them closer together, and it's really helped to take some of the stress off of the job that they do. So yeah, this is just a quick video about that. If you have questions or some more techniques or anything like that, visit my website, ewaillinois.org. You can go to the Traveling Therapist tab, and there is an inquiries section. There's a comment section. You can leave a comment on this video. All inquiries from my website come straight to my email, and I will either answer you directly or I'll make another video about it. You know, like I say all the time, I can't do this without interaction from the people who are out there watching, and you know, feedback is good feedback. Again, unless you're coming on my page to completely bitch and moan about what I'm saying, because this is my opinion page, not being endorsed by anybody. I'm not pushing the opinions of other people. My page, my opinions. You come to listen if you'd like to, and I do, you know, in some capacity, welcome countering opinions, but I don't encourage abuse, and I won't stand for abuse. Not that that's happened yet, but it is the internet. It's bound to happen. But yeah, if you have anything you want to say or add, or have a question you'd like for me to answer, just leave me a comment or submit an inquiry. You guys take care and be well.